And we are live on Long Island, New York. Hello, Agnes. How are you doing? It's good to see you again. It's Memorial Day weekend. What's going on with you?
Relaxing. I started my relaxation today from cooking like I'm expecting 20 people.
Ooh,
That's my way of relaxing, and no one is coming. So,
what do you mean no one is coming? No one is coming today,
no,
but you're
no,
expecting 20 people?
no. My form of relaxation. I'm going to relax so all day, all weekend. I'm going to start cooking, and I can't stop. So,
So you have them or not. I wonder if they know and understand that they're not supposed to come or they think they're coming.
that was not an invitation.
It's not. Right, so people do not, you're watching this right now, do not go to Agnes's house. Do not. She is not inviting you. And that's what we're talking about today, ladies and gents. Miscommunications and misunderstandings. That's interesting. That's the first thing. But yeah, that's what we're talking about today on Love, Death, and Taxes. Let's get started. Yeah. Wow. Okay. I got to tell you, I had an interesting Monday. Um, I got an email that kind of triggered this whole conversation. Right? I have misunderstandings every now and then, and we have conversations with people every now and then who are like, what happened there? And this was a conversation that was not being had. I The person was communicating, but not really communicating. You know how someone will decide this is the way we're going forward, but we're not going to have
Mhm.
a conversation about it. And I can be just as bad. Like I can decide, okay, whatever. You don't want to talk to me about it, then I'm going to leave it alone too. I'm not going to talk. We're just going to move forward in that direction
Yeah.
because I can be just stubborn, right? Um, but I think there's a lot to be said about opening up, speaking to people, fully explaining exactly what it is that is going through your mind, what is going through my mind, so that we do not miscommunicate and have um, misunderstandings. What when you hear this topic, what do you think about? What do you think about, Agnes?
I'm thinking about the different relationships that people have and different personalities that people have. With two people that they know each other very well, let's say in a very close relationship, husband and wife. And although not always, but when someone is married for 40, 50 years, they look at each other, they know what they mean. But there are some relationships, even as close as very good friends for years and years, or very close relationships as boyfriend, girlfriend, or that kind of relationships. It Sometimes people think that they know. A lot of time people will assume that they know, that they understand. They jump into conclusion. A lot of
Yeah.
times I have conversation with someone close to me that I think they know me for years, so they will know exactly what I say, that I don't have to verbalize it. And then I'm finding out that no, why don't you just let me finish without jumping middle of sentence, so this way I can verbalize everything. Otherwise, you just assume what you think that I'm going to say. So there's a lot of, yeah. And you know what, I also noticed that sometimes people will talk, they will talk about the same thing, but they will use such a different verbalization that um, we will be in a conversation and we express each other different way, and that will be miscommunication right there, because no one can understand what you are saying depending on what kind of mood you are. So assumption, jumping into conclusion, plays a big role in a conversation. So tell me what happened.
I agree. I'm not going to tell you exactly what happened, but yeah, I see what you see. You're talking about comprehension too, like, and what you were saying before is like you think they understand, and then sometimes the other thing is a third party might even get involved. So someone will turn to someone and say, someone said this and this and this. My good friend said so and so to me. Do you think that they mean this, this, this? Meanwhile, the conversation that you and your good friend have, or you and your husband have, or you and your significant other have, is set a certain way based on your relationship with that person. It has context, right? It has texture that conversation that you're having with that other person probably doesn't have. In fact, they might be bringing their viewpoint on something separate, a relationship they have with someone else, or even a relationship that they have with your significant other or your spouse. Like they're thinking, oh, I don't know him that well, but what I do know of him, I know this, this, this. So when you're telling me this, then they put that hat or that's goggles, they view it through those specific and then everything gets messed up because now you've taken advice from a person who really doesn't understand the the dynamics of your relationship with the other person.
Exactly.
And,
Exactly.
and I'm not telling you exactly what happened, but I'm pretty sure that was part of what happened on Monday. Like there's a third party involved, and this person is not even having a conversation with me. And I'm like, okay, fine. I'm not going to chase this down. I'm not going to uh, force the issue. In fact, sometimes you let people have a little bit of space so that they can think about what happened, and eventually sometimes they even come around, right? You can't leave it too long, because then if you leave it too long, now you're just not talking to that person, right?
Now, when there's something very important, it will, you cannot avoid it. It
Yeah,
will, another situation will happen or will be created when the two people gonna have this conversation to address an issue. If there
exactly.
is a big issue, there are some little things that sometimes they're not worth it of anybody's time,
Right,
and you can let it go. But if there is something that's gonna get back and bite you in the backside, so that's completely different thing. But yes, there's a lot of different situations, especially when it comes to a couple. When there's a third party involved, there's a lot of assumption. And there's depending of person's their character, their personality. There will be um, experience a couple years ago. Like we live the way we want, what works for us between the four walls. We have our code of conduct. This is things acceptable and not acceptable, but that's up to every couple. And a friend
right.
comes in and start pointing out, oh, this is not good, this is supposed to be, well, that's your point of view, that's how
Exactly,
you want to live. So
exactly.
please do as you wish, but this is not working. So don't try to make me feel bad about it, because it's just not going to work. So we're not going to be friends anymore if you are imposing your view. I can respect your point of view. I can respect your decisions, how you want to lead your life, or how
Right,
you want to go about certain things.
right.
All good. Do you, and let me do me. That's the kind of thing. It came to a very uncomfortable situation,
Yes,
very
yes,
uncomfortable,
yeah, yeah.
because you cannot stick everyone has a freedom of speech, everyone has a freedom of expression. Do what you want, live your life, but please don't shove your ways into the throat. It's not going to work.
I saw
So
a really good quote the other day, and I think it's. I'm not going to say who it is because for some people it won't matter. For some people, they're like, "Oh, that person is this or that person is that." But bottom line is, the quote was, "You don't have to accept everybody's viewpoint. You can acknowledge their viewpoint, but you can't don't have to accept it. If you think the world is flat, you can I'm acknowledging that you want to believe that and that's your but I'm not going to accept it. You're an idiot." I just have to keep on, and it's true. There's so many people who want to impose their beliefs on you from wherever they're from. And as you were saying that, I was thinking about cultures, like cultural differences. So there are people who, you walk into a room, they expect you to take off your shoes because that is how they have lived. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's how they want. But because someone comes in and doesn't immediately take off their shoes doesn't mean that they are going out of their way to disrespect you. It's just that that's the way that they are. And the funny thing is, I'm saying this to you, and I'm realizing that you're one of those people who requires to take off their shoes when you come into the house because you're keeping the house nice and clean. And it wasn't directed at you at all. It was
it's
just
okay. It's okay. No.
it's so funny. But you know what I mean? You know what I mean? A person who comes in and doesn't think about that because where they live, they just don't do it. It's not because they're trying to go out of their way to disrespect you, Agnes. It was just that they don't always do that, or they weren't sure whether or not to do it or not. I mean, there are people who will be weirded out by me taking off my shoes and, and walking into their house. They'll be like, "What is happening?"
2 weeks
Uh-huh.
ago, I was put in a cultural differences situation,
Okay, okay,
um, because you know um, uh, half of me it's different culture, but I wasn't raised in that culture.
exactly.
So I'm learning about the culture, to be respectful when I'm around that part of the family,
Yes,
but I refuse to live by the culture because just not me. I was raised different way and I feel very comfortable the way I am. But 2 weeks ago I was brought with something happened, a simple conversation. And then it was brought to my attention, like, how would you allow this person talk to that person because of different, like, what are you talking about? It's fine with me. So like,
hmm.
if someone was talking to the ex-husband in the front of a new husband,
Oh,
it's like, okay, they know of the existence and that person is not going anywhere because of other relationships. So like, yeah, I know him, and there is me. I know him. He's a nice guy, That's but that's so disrespectful in front of you. Like, what are you talking about? I don't feel disrespected. It's like, to me, it's, this person is not going. This person is part of life, of even my life. So like, what's the matter? But to other cultures, that was disrespectful. Can you
yeah, they
imagine?
felt
And I
like
was like, hmm, okay. So if you see something like that, I'm glad that you're talking to me so I can tell you that this is okay in this
right.
part of the world. So like,
And in my particular culture, of course, or in my
yeah.
relationship. Right, 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 right. My significant other and I have had conversations about this person. We are intimate to the point where any discussions of that person or any intrusion from that person does not bother him or her because they know how I feel
Yes.
about that person and they understand my relationship with them. And it may be in the past, but that doesn't mean you have to be mean to people because they're in the past. I hear that all the time. Like, we never had a bad breakup. I don't have bad breakups. All of my are friends or whatever. And you hear that all the time. And yes, to some extent that happens. But then sometimes there are bad breakups, and it still means you do not like throw stones at the person when you see them in the street. you, you And my Jamaican friends, you know that can happen. But yeah, you deal with them in like they're people, and like they are, you're managing it properly. Um,
I
I
was
want.
at the funeral. I have to tell you, I was at the funeral
Okay.
where the lady passed, and her husband, actually, everyone just like, okay, they put her in a grave. Everyone is walking away, and her husband took a couple stones and started throwing at the casket. You know, talking about bad breakups. I was like,
When they say
wait till you get home, like, just
no,
curse
you
her
won't
out
never
or something.
get. When they say ashes to ashes and dust to dust, they mean you throw a little dirt in there, not rocks.
Yeah.
Still,
Oh,
you know,
and this is for this, and this one is for that.
too late, too late.
It's like, why now?
Wow, that's crazy. Um, so you get them in personal life, right? These miscommunications, these misunderstandings, but more and more, I see them happening in the workplace and in the media, because we all have this social media thing, and we have this, you're putting out your thoughts. Like, I know people might actually look at this, watch this, and think, oh my gosh, he's talking about me, because
Yes,
we're
it's your.
being vague. And now they're upset with me because, oh, Ryan was talking about me. No, I wasn't talking about you. Oh, what's that song? You're so vain. You think
Yeah,
that the song is about you, but it's quite possible. Yes, I could be talking about you, but I might also not be have anything to do with you whatsoever. And that, in and of itself, miscommunication and misunderstanding, because people are putting out all of this information out there about themselves, about what they're doing, about what's happening in their lives, and what they see in the world, or they think they see in the world. And sometimes just the language that they use, based on how they use it versus how someone else would use it, creates all these misunderstandings. I seeing a guy in the news right now who did a commencement speech, and I think he meant well what he was saying, but he got in so much trouble. He plays football, right? And he was
yeah.
saying something about women and where women belong in the home and whatever. And I think he meant well, but at the same time, it's so interesting because he's his mother is a physicist. So what he was saying was that, women should be more traditional and be home and whatever not. Meanwhile, his mother has never been that. So it's a very interesting thing, in that he's not saying women should be stupid, because he obviously has a parent who is very, very intelligent, but at the same time, he's saying something.
Doesn't mean that the kids share their parents' point of view.
This is true too.
At certain point, even in my household, we come to the point that because we already know that we're looking at things different way. So we have a code that, okay, from now on, we stop talking about whatever you want to talk. We talk about butterflies and unicorns, uh, because we want to sit at the table and have a good time. We
Right.
respect our differences.
Yeah.
To be honest, I am proud looking at young people at my table, that they have their own, they form their own point of view, their their own traditions. I'm proud looking at them, and I also know that at the time when, who knows, by the time they reach my age, they might be looking different way because of life experience might change their point of view. We all evolve all the time. I wasn't thinking about things the way I'm doing right now. I wasn't looking at life from this point of view as I did right now. When my mother warned me when I was younger, don't do this or that, that's going to be stupid. Of course, I knew better. I did stupid things. I got over my head, and I'm thinking, like, maybe she was right. So we all do. we all do the same things, and life experience is teaching us a lot, depending what we experience, depending what we who are we meeting. Like you said, at work might be different way, might be in a family circle, but that's where it comes respect,
Yeah. Yeah.
because no one tells you it should not be, really, it should not be an argument. No, you're looking, this is wrong, what you're thinking. You should respect, be happy for the person. That's what makes them happy, that's what helps them live, that's what helps them sleep through the night. Good for you. I do respect you. I acknowledge, like you said before, I acknowledge that's what you think. Great. My point of view is different, but doesn't mean we cannot talk about other things like butterflies and unicorns.
Right.
You know, so, uh, so yes, there is a lot of times people feel like they. I heard this expression. I don't want them to think they're the smartest person in the room. That so that's why someone will keep arguing with another person, because no, he needs to know I'm smarter than him. If
Wow.
you have that need, okay, do you?
Well, the interesting thing is, if someone feels like that and is constantly saying that, they may lack a certain amount of emotional intelligence. They may think that they're the smartest. Maybe you have more degrees. Maybe you have gone further in life as far as financial. But if you have a problem with someone and you feel like you have to argue with them specifically for the reason to show them, put them in their place per se, that's because that's what that is, right? Putting them in their place, then you are lacking a certain amount of emotional intelligence too. Why should it be a competition? Why shouldn't you be able to be the genius of you and him be the genius of him? It's so silly that sometimes people want to do different things. Now, um, sometimes it's generational too. Like you were saying, there are sometimes big generation gaps. People see one thing as a problem. I heard the other day that the newest generation are saying that ankle socks make you look old, which I thought was weird because in our generation, it was when you wore long black socks.
Sandals.
Yeah, with sandals. That's what made you old. And now they're saying ankle socks, which those make you look old. Really, it's such an interesting thing where you go from step to step, and now there's this miscommunication where, oh, boomer, you're wearing ankle socks, which I would think would be cool, but now it's a problem. It's another miscommunication. How do you manage them? Have you ever had a situation where you really couldn't even talk to this person for a certain amount of time, and then you worked it out with them? How did you figure it out? How did you overcome, you and that person overcome it, and now you and them are like this, but before it was a problem?
Well, it's funny because actually I was talking to my husband about one of the relationships, and we had a good laugh about it. Um, they, uh, there are different relationships. So if there is someone this is my point of view.
Okay.
If there is someone that you really care about, and there's someone in your love has constant presence, so that would be a good idea to have good understanding and good communication with that person. So if you don't understand something, ask questions. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to show. Sometimes maybe some people will think this is a vulnerable side, but it's a good idea to sit down and say, you know what, I would like to get back to the subject because I don't understand what's going on. Is that's what you mean? Did you mean this one? So it's okay to show vulnerability and to avoid miscommunications later down the road.
Right.
So
Right.
that's for relationships when it's important.
Yes.
Other relationships, let's say for example with your children, this is will be generational thing. There is huge difference, as it should be. New generation, they're starting new life. They should live the way they want, not the way we want them to. So a little respect from the older person to give more understanding to the younger. Be happy for them, and let it go. Let it go. And sometimes just sit and smile. It's easier than having a big blown argument. Then it. That's the way I'm looking. Like, I am so happy for for younger generations. I see my nieces and nephews. They live their lives the way they want it, not the way I want them. I have no right to tell them how to live. Be happy for them. Be respectful. They're gonna respect you back, because the respect is earned, not demanded. There are relationships where people are not so important. Their presence in your life, it's not so important. It's occasional. Not that long ago, I was in a situation that I'm sitting and then I'm noticing at the dinner table looks being exchanged of two other people, like, mm, what I'm doing. And like, yeah, the kind of thing like, you're so subtle. No one can see what you're doing. I just don't care. I just don't care. If someone doesn't like what I'm doing, turn the other way. There is no questions. There is no conversations, because you know what? Because you know that person, and you're just gonna keep digging for more. From miscommunication, you're gonna have an argument. For what? Is it
Yeah,
worth it? Ask yourself, is it worth it?
yeah, yeah. I,
You
it's
know?
it's almost like you see these people with road rage, and you think to yourself, what has happened here? Um, you're driving in your car, you're thinking about what you are doing, and you can sometimes, it happens, where people go out of their way to be rude to others on the road, or don't follow the rules on the road. But sometimes, and I think more often than not, it is just people being maybe a little careless, maybe didn't see you, maybe something is wrong with the car, or they couldn't figure it out, or they were distracted in some way. Most of the time, I don't think people are going out of their way to try to make you be in an accident. I don't think they're doing it on purpose. Now, that doesn't always excuse the behavior, but it does not allow for you to be able to get up and then say, I'm jumping out of this car and I'm going to punch a hole through their window and beat them up. And I feel like that communication that happens with the physical car, or sometimes, like you said, with physical faces, like people doing this. Look here, look what I just did. Like, what's going on? Oh. And again, if you're
Yeah.
Jamaican, you know exactly what that means. Look, look at that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's a pointing. Yeah. I'm not going to do it with my fingers, but you
yeah,
see it, and you're like,
yeah.
"What is going on?" So sometimes this physical manifestation of communication also gets misunderstood, and then now you've got a fight. And I have to tell you, sometimes you're framing things. That's what's happening in road rage. You're framing things because two or three other people on the road put you in a bad mood, and now this third person or fourth person, that's the last straw. I gotta jump out. And I'm like, these people are not connected. It just so happens that that's the case. And so I think, we all have to also frame or reframe when we're talking to people or communicating with people, because what you think you see with your perception may not necessarily be that person's perception at all. A lot of times you see people getting pulled out of a car or whatever, they're like, what's happening? They have no idea what's going on because they don't even know what they did. And it's fascinating to see people do that kind of stuff to one another. Yeah.
There is a lot of problems. You walking on the street, sometimes you see someone, oh, they look at me this way or that way. They weren't even looking at you, they look over you. And maybe
Or
that person
through
just lost someone. Yes. Maybe they lost just someone dear to them. Maybe someone went through some breakup, maybe some argument, maybe they have health problems, and they
Mhm.
don't feel like walking and smiling. Actually, when I'm walking to the office in the morning, I'm looking at everyone and so many people that they are so closed between themselves, and you can see in their expressions how much they carry. In the morning, you see they are not at ease, and it almost hurts. Like, so I would love to see more happiness, more, more smiles, but people are just rushing, going. And I hear I'm overhearing the conversations on the phone, like when you're walking by people, maybe 20 to 1 that I hear a good conversation, something nice. Usually there's an argument, there are curses, there are problems. Therefore, there's a lot of people around us that they're struggling for one reason or the other, emotionally, physically, we don't know. An assumption of them might be so easy for others because you just look at someone and it's like, oh, they don't like me. They don't know you. You don't know them. What do you know of them? But there's so little understanding for another human being.
Yeah, yeah.
It's hurtful. It's, for me, mentally hurts, really.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, there's so much that could be happening or going on with a person who sends you a text message, and it might be particularly short or seems like it's curt, but you have no idea what they're dealing with right at that moment. They're in the car, maybe they can't send it all off. Maybe they they spoke into the machine and now it's writing something that they didn't actually say. You really sometimes have to just take a moment and say, what that doesn't
Today,
make any sense. Can
today
we
I received an emoji of a giraffe.
what does that mean?
I have no idea. I asked, I called and asked, and guess what? It was a mistake because
Of
the
course.
person is struggling with their phone. But
Agnes, you've got a really long neck.
I wish. I wish.
I mean, the only thing I could think of is rubbernecking. Like if you see a giraffe, you ever see,
No, no,
you
no,
know,
no, 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 don't even bring that up. No, 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 no,
not your fun thing.
no.
This just happened. But
Just
yeah,
no.
that's the thing. Yeah, because now we're gonna have the conversation, and next thing you know, you're like, "What? What does that mean? Did they send it on purpose? What? No, they sent you a giraffe."
It's
Why not?
easy. It's easy to avoid miscommunication just by talking. Don't
Yeah,
jump into conclusions.
right,
Don't feel like this is embarrassing just to ask questions.
right,
And
right,
the whole secret to have a normal conversation is to keep your emotions in check, because there's not every subject will be like you can take it like very easy. It'll be a lot of times our project, what do you mean? We will be caught off guard.
right,
But our emotions, keep emotions, you don't assume the worst.
right.
That might be just very simple thing.
Yeah, yeah. I think basically you could sum it up as number one, when you're going into the conversation, you want to give people the leeway, give them the benefit of the doubt. Number one. Number two, clarify, right? Make sure you're clarifying because someone's saying something to you about a giraffe and you're like, what is this? I have no idea. Just clarify. Just please what? You mean what? And then on top of that, don't necessarily frame and don't take other people's information either. In fact, part of what happened to me on this Monday, I know specifically that someone else was doing part of the communication. Like someone else actually was giving them information and the other person was sending it on like unedited.
Mhm.
Or maybe if they did edit it, it doesn't matter. Because when I saw it, I was like, this person never writes like this. This is not even that person. What the texture of the conversation could not possibly come from that person. I've known that person for so many years. Why would they talk to me like that? But that other person, absolutely. I knew that they would talk like that. So I'm looking at the thing and I'm like, why are you doing it? And so they're triggering in me a response that does not belong to that specific
Yeah.
person. And so sometimes you got to stop and think about it. And you're right. I'll probably reach out to them for clarification. But I already like was like, okay, great. Is this what you want? Okay.
If that's what it is, then it's okay. It's fine.
It's
I
okay.
just want to clarify that this my understanding
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
that's what you meant.
Exactly. This is what you meant. I received it, and I'm going to take it that way. And don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Feel good about the next way that it goes. So yeah, that I feel like those are the steps. Like frame it in a certain way. Don't jump to conclusions. Ask for clarification, and then yeah, try to communicate as much as possible. I gotta tell you one of the things that I think happens as miscommunications between men and women in particular is sometimes women have already thought out exactly how this conversation is going to go, and you bring something to guys, and I know I'm guilty. I know I'm guilty. I'm like, oh, what? And my responses right in that moment would not be adequate for the female who's having the conversation with me. But 20 minutes, give me 20 minutes, okay? Give me even the next day. And then I'm like, oh, is this what you were talking about? I'm sorry, ladies. We're slow sometimes because the communication that you're bringing to us sometimes very nuanced and we don't necessarily understand. In fact, I think a lot of women are not necessarily saying exactly what they mean. They are saying this thing so that you can kind of catch on. But many of us, it takes us like the next day.
Listen,
So,
if you see a catalog open on certain page, constantly shuffle around and circled and a size and a this and a color, take the hint. Take the hint. But there's also a lot of miscommunication when one of the parties are not admitting that they're not listening. I caught myself a lot of times that I'm in my own world because depending of what I'm thinking about, of what I'm doing, and I will hear the second half of the conversation as huh, what? So see, the thing is, um, in my household, we admitting. I'm so sorry, I was not listening. Just because we both are guilty of the same thing. It happens to him, it happens to me.
it
So
does.
there is no shame of admitting and say, I'm so sorry, but I was really thinking about something else. Can you please say it again? So that there is no reason to get upset. Oh, you just don't listen to what I'm saying. No, we don't have that. We don't have that.
No.
We don't do that because we both doing the same thing. We're just humans.
Yes,
Sometimes you
exactly.
drift away. Sometimes you drift away.
Exactly. Sometimes you wanna take on the very same motto that you take in your tax resolution business, which is no
No
judgment.
judgment. No judgment.
No judgment. No judgment.
Or I love the way, like, okay, I like this and that, but my boyfriend doesn't want me to wear this. He doesn't like it. Well, I'm glad. So don't buy it for him. Don't make him wear it. But if you like it,
You enjoy it by yourself then. Don't
don't
make
make
him
me
wear
wear
it.
it
That's great. That's classic.
because he doesn't like it. Oh, okay, so he doesn't have to wear it. So
That's fantastic.
it's
Ladies and
not that
gents,
color, darling. Yeah.
ladies and gents, I hope you have enjoyed our podcast today. This is Love, Death, and Taxes. I do want you to check us out. If you have something you'd like to contribute to this conversation, I mean, we are live today, right? You could actually have the conversation with us and chit chatted. But if you just now are hearing this convo on one of the many places where we are, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon.com, on your Alexa, you want to send us an email, you can do that at mailbag@lovedeathandtaxes.com. And if you have an issue specifically with your business taxes, because now the second um, we're into the second quarter of the year, and I know some people. I've been seeing quite a few information come in. I hear Target's in trouble. I hear a few other businesses are in trouble. If you need that, you want some tax resolution, you have some issues, you want to reach out to nytaxresolutions.com, because Agnes has that for you. And I want to wish everybody a great memorial. I guess I'm dating the show, right, Agnes? But I want to wish you a great Memorial weekend. Have you been seeing those planes, the Blue Angels, fly over on your side? Yeah. I mean, yesterday in the middle of the rain, I heard the sonic boom, and I was like, what is happening? I'm surprised that they would fly at that time. But yeah, look forward to it, ladies and gents. I hope you're going to enjoy this weekend. So I hope I look around. I see you next week. This is Love, Death, and Taxes. Bye bye, Agnes. Have a good night. See you next week.
Bye bye.
Very well.